What happens when two of television's most outspoken women collide on live TV in a way nobody saw coming? The answer: pure, unfiltered chaos that left audiences speechless, producers scrambling, and one of the most awkward moments in morning show history burned into pop culture forever. It started as a perfectly normal day at NBC Studios. The cameras were being tested, the audience warmed up, and the hosts were rehearsing their questions. The Today Show had a full lineup, including a special appearance from one of America's favorite voices, Kelly Clarkson. She was there to talk about her latest album, the upcoming season of her talk show, and maybe sing a few notes for the fans in the audience. Everyone expected the usual: laughs, charm, that warm Kelly energy that fills every room she walks into. But no one expected what would happen next. Because when the producers decided to throw in a surprise guest, co-host for this segment, certain Joy Behar from The View, they had no idea they were about to create one of the most uncomfortable on-air showdowns in years. The studio lights dimmed, the music cue played, and the cameras went live. Kelly walked out smiling, waving to the crowd. She was her usual bubbly self, chatting easily with the main host, answering the standard questions: career updates, family life, upcoming tour. Everything was smooth, until the host smiled and said, "We've got a special surprise guest joining us today." From backstage, Joy Behar stepped into the light. The audience clapped, half in surprise, half in confusion. Kelly's expression froze for a fraction of a second, just long enough for anyone paying attention to see it. She quickly recovered, plastering on a professional smile. But the energy in that studio had shifted instantly. The host tried to smooth things over, joking that they'd brought extra firepower for this interview. Kelly laughed politely, but it didn't reach her eyes. Joy took her seat, crossing her legs with that unmistakable confidence she's known for. The interview went on, but everyone could feel it. Something was brewing. At first, it was standard fare. Kelly talked about her show, the new season, her latest songs. She told a few behind-the-scenes stories, her usual mix of funny and heartfelt. The crowd laughed along. Joy nodded here and there, occasionally smiling, but there was a look in her eyes. Calculated. Waiting. Then came the turning point. The host asked Kelly about balancing fame, career, and motherhood, something she's spoken about openly for years. Kelly gave a thoughtful answer, talking about setting boundaries, protecting her mental health, and learning not to feel guilty about saying no. That's when Joy leaned forward. With a faint smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, she said, "That's interesting, coming from someone who's made some pretty strong comments recently about work-life balance in this industry." The air in the room changed. Kelly blinked, keeping her composure. "I'm not sure what you're referring to," she said lightly. Joy didn't miss a beat. "Oh, I'm talking about that interview you did a few weeks ago. You said some people in Hollywood wear their exhaustion like a badge of honor, that it's unhealthy. You could almost hear the temperature drop." Kelly adjusted in her seat and replied carefully, "I did say that, and I stand by it. I think it's important that people find sustainable ways to work. Burning out shouldn't be the price of success." Joy tilted her head, still smiling. "That's easy to say when you've already made it, when you're not still fighting for every opportunity." A nervous laugh rippled through the audience. The main host tried to jump in, but Kelly raised a hand slightly, signaling she wanted to respond. "I completely understand that everyone's journey is different," she said calmly, "and I respect the people who paved the way, but that doesn't mean we should glorify suffering. The next generation deserves better balance." Joy's smile faded into something sharper. "Suffering," she repeated. "Interesting word choice. Maybe you don't understand what real struggle looks like, what it took for women, especially women of my generation, to get a seat at this table." Kelly's tone stayed measured, but her jaw tightened. "I have nothing but respect for what women before me went through," she said. "But respect doesn't mean repeating their pain just because that's how it used to be." Joy gave a short, mirthless laugh. "Toxicity, struggle, you call it toxic. Back in my day, we called it work ethic." The room went silent. Even the audience stopped clapping. The host tried to steer things back. "Kelly, tell us about your holiday special." But Kelly wasn't done. "I just think," she said, "that maybe we've reached a point where women don't have to tear each other down to prove they're strong." Joy leaned back in her chair. Who's tearing anyone down? I'm simply saying not everyone has the luxury to choose balance over survival. That word, luxury, hung in the air. Kelly's voice hardened. I've worked since I was 16. I've fought for every opportunity I've ever had. Nothing about my career was handed to me. Joy nodded almost mockingly. Sure, but winning American Idol, that's hardly the same as spending decades doing. Stand up in clubs where drunks throw things at you, or fighting for airtime when men tried to talk over you. Kelly's composure started to crack. I've never said my story was the same as yours. But that doesn't make it less valid, Joy shrugged. I'm not invalidating it. Just saying, maybe recognize that your perspective comes from a pretty smooth path. Kelly laughed, but there was no humor in it. A smooth path? You want to talk about label battles? Public divorces? Custody fights? Constant media scrutiny? Joy waved a dismissive hand. We all deal with scrutiny. It's part of the job. If you can't handle it, maybe you should have stayed in Texas. The audience gasped. The host froze. Kelly stood up. Her voice shook, but it was steady enough to cut through the silence. I have handled it. I'm still here, still working, still succeeding, and I don't need to justify that to anyone, least of all someone determined to diminish it. Joy stood too. Diminish? I'm just having a real conversation. Sorry if that's too mature for you. Kelly's laugh was sharp. Maturity? That's rich. Coming from someone who spent this entire segment taking cheap shots. Joy crossed her arms. If you think this is passive-aggressive, you've clearly never dealt with actual aggression. Kelly took a breath. You know what? Maybe the problem isn't aggression. Maybe it's that you confuse confrontation with honesty. The tension was electric. The host didn't even try to interrupt anymore. Joy smiled, but it didn't look friendly. Maybe you're just not used to people disagreeing with you. You're used to softball interviews and people kissing your feet. Kelly's expression hardened. Disagreement's fine, but there's a difference between disagreement and disrespect. Joy laughed again. Oh, don't play the victim. This is what real discourse looks like. Kelly looked straight into the camera. No, she said quietly. This is what happens when people mistake domination for discussion. The audience started murmuring. The host's voice wavered, saying they'd need to take a break soon, but neither woman was backing down. Joy rolled her eyes. You're playing to the crowd now. Kelly turned back to her. No, I'm talking to the people watching. Because they can see exactly what's happening here. Joy's voice rose. You just don't like hearing criticism. You want applause, not pushback. Kelly shot back. I can handle pushback. I can't handle being ambushed. Joy smirked. Ambushed? Sweetheart, this is a morning show, not a battlefield. Kelly said quietly. You made it one. The host tried again. Ladies, we really need to... But Joy cut her off. You're too sensitive. Kelly, too used to everyone treating you like America's sweetheart. Kelly's face was flushed now, but her voice was calm. I don't need to be anyone's sweetheart. I just expect basic respect. The same respect I've shown you, Joy scoffed. Oh, please. You're not doing anyone a favor by showing up here to promote your projects. Kelly's jaw clenched. I'm here to talk about my work, not to get dragged into some generational turf war. Joy fired back. It's not a turf war. It's called having a spine. Kelly took a step closer, her voice quiet but sharp. I'd rather be accused of being agreeable than be known for tearing people down to stay relevant. That line hit like a punch. The crowd gasped again. Joy's eyes widened. Excuse me. Kelly didn't flinch. You heard me. You've built a brand out of picking fights and calling it honesty. But what it really is mean. Even the crew had stopped moving. Joy's voice shook with anger. Mean? You think being honest makes me mean? You think calling out privilege makes me bitter? Kelly shook her head. I think you're confusing cruelty with courage. And there's a difference. Joy's face reddened. Courage? You don't know the first thing about courage. Courage is surviving this business for 40 years without anyone handing you a thing. Kelly's voice softened slightly. I respect that, truly, but maybe the next generation doesn't have to fight the same wars to prove they're worthy. Joy laughed coldly. Oh, so now you're rewriting the rules for everyone. How convenient, Kelly replied. Not rewriting, evolving, learning. Isn't that what progress is supposed to be? Joy's tone turned sharp again. Progress doesn't mean pretending hard work is optional. Not everyone can just meditate their way through burnout. Kelly took a slow breath. No one's pretending it's easy, but we can't keep telling people they have to break themselves to succeed. That's not strength, it's survivalism, Joy snorted. And now you're lecturing me about mental health? Please, your generation didn't invent self-care. Kelly smiled sadly. No, we just stopped being ashamed to talk about it. The audience burst into applause, but it wasn't the good kind. It was nervous, uncertain, the sound of people realizing they were watching something unravel in real time. Joy turned to the audience. See, that's the problem. You can't handle being challenged, so you turned it into a performance. Kelly's expression hardened again. You call this challenging? I call it twisting everything I say into an insult. Joy shot back. Maybe your words don't need twisting. Maybe they're exactly as entitled as they sound. Kelly's voice rose slightly. Entitled? You think caring about mental health and balance is entitlement? That's the problem right there. Joy threw up her hands. You're impossible! Every generation thinks they've figured it all out. Kelly leaned forward. And every generation forgets they were once the ones trying to change things. The host finally stepped between them, voice trembling. We need to cut to commercial. Neither woman moved. Kelly looked directly at Joy and said quietly, Privilege has nothing to do with recognizing disrespect. And right now, what you're doing is disrespectful. Joy folded her arms. Maybe you're just too thin-skinned. Too used to people worshiping you. Kelly's voice broke slightly, but she stood tall. I don't need worship. I just expect professionalism. Something I thought I'd get here today. Joy scoffed. Professionalism? You came here to sell your projects. Don't pretend you're doing anyone a favor. Kelly shook her head. I came here for a conversation. You came here for a fight. Joy's smile vanished. It's not a fight, it's honesty. Kelly replied, No, honesty is saying how you feel without trying to humiliate someone. The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, Joy said, You think you're better than me? Kelly's voice was quiet but steady. No, I just think we can be better than this. The host, pale and visibly shaking, announced that they'd be right back after a quick break. The camera light went off, but the studio was still frozen. Kelly turned to Joy one last time and said, You built a career on being loud. I built mine on being real. Maybe that's why we'll never see eye to eye. Joy stared back, speechless for the first time all morning. Kelly gave a small nod, stepped away from the chair, and walked off the set. The clip hit the internet within hours. Millions watched it, debated it, argued over who was right, who crossed the line, who went too far. But one thing was undeniable. This wasn't just another interview gone wrong. This was a clash of generations, a collision of philosophies, and a raw, unfiltered moment that peeled back the glossy layer of television to reveal something real, something human, something unforgettable. And no matter which side people took, one thing everyone agreed on, this was live television history. So, make sure you're subscribed, because what happens next might just change everything.